A night of massive airstrikes in Ukraine, which come after Moscow warned there would be consequences for a drone attack on 2 Russian ships. Heightened tension in Niger as the deadline for coup leaders to restore democracy expires. Pope Francis announces South Korea to host the 2027 World Youth Day as he celebrated Mass in Sunday's finale of the festival. Climate change puts the Thames Barrier protecting Greater London's floodplain under increasing pressure. Firefighters battling a blaze at a corn storage facility in Ukraine. The attack was part of a massive overnight strike by Russia, with Kyiv claiming to have destroyed most of the cruise missiles and drones launched. Ukraine says at least 3 people died in the intense shelling, which came after Moscow warned there would be consequences for attacks on Russian vessels in the Black Sea. In a tweet, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a bomb had hit a blood transfusion center in Kupiansk, which he described as a war crime. Most of the overnight attacks appeared to be concentrated in the west of the country. In Russia, flights from Moscow's second-largest airport were briefly suspended on Sunday morning following a foiled drone attack. Meanwhile, a video published on Sunday on a Telegram channel associated with the Wagner mercenary group appears to show its boss, Yevgeny Prigozhin, speaking about Ukrainian war tactics and criticizing Russia's defense ministry.
Ukraine's health system has been under severe strain since Russia's illegal invasion, with many staff tied up treating the injured on the front line. An EU scheme launched in March last year has helped transfer over 2,300 Ukrainian patients to over 21 European countries for medical treatment.
I think this operation is important because we are bringing patients out of Ukraine. We will again free the Ukraine hospitals for capacity. That's, I think, it's a really important hand. It's important to show Ukraine the support we're giving.
The project's also intended to relieve pressure on health systems in countries bordering Ukraine, including Poland and Slovakia. As well as treating injured soldiers, the health services in these countries have come under strain from the flow of refugees.
Під час обстрілу міста Бахмут Російською Федерацією прибув на позицію і отримав поранення. Європейський Союз на війну відповів адекватно.
The EU Civil Protection Mechanism finances the evacuations, which are coordinated from a hub based in the Polish city of Rzeszów near the Ukrainian border.
This is the only one place in Europe created to support, to help our Ukrainian partners, our Ukrainian friends, especially patients who cannot continue medical treatment inside the Ukraine.
Patients are here, they are provided with medical needs, they are provided with food and shelter here. This is something like a time buffer as well for patients who arrive let's say 1 day or 2 days before a scheduled flight, just evacuates them into whole of Europe.
The World Health Organization helps patients return safely to Ukraine after treatment, and so far over 370 of them have asked to go home once the acute phase of their treatment is over.
Supporters of Niger's coup gather at a stadium in the capital Niamey. Attended by some 30,000 people, the rally took place on Sunday as a deadline to release and reinstate the democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, was set to expire. The cut-off date was set by the regional bloc ECOWAS, and if its demands are not met, Niger may face foreign military intervention. The coup leaders who attended the rally say they will not cave in to external pressure to stand down. But while some citizens are cheering, others fear what might happen next.
Nous, on veut la paix. On ne voulait pas des agressions des pays étrangers contre un autre pays. Nous sommes des frères. Nous qui sommes ici, nous sommes des citoyens lambda. Même pour manger, c'est un problème pour nous. Donc s'il y a la guerre, ça ne nous arrange pas. C'est pourquoi on veille ici.
ECOWAS, which agreed to the military action last week, has not said what its next steps would be or exactly what time the deadline expires.
Russian flags waving outside the French embassy in Niger, demonstrating a desire for a new regime. Experts warn of Moscow's growing influence in the Sahel region, in particular an alliance with the Russian mercenary Wagner Group. After President Mohamed Bazoum was ousted by the military coup last week, the future of the former French colony remains unclear, fragile and open to exploitation.
Russia is looking at opportunities in the region. It's already very engaged in Mali in partnership with the junta there. Although Russia, through its foreign minister, Mr. Lavrov, has condemned the coup in Niger and asked for constitutional order to be returned, and Russia also supported a UN Security Council statement to that effect last Friday. The founding member of the Wagner mercenary group, Mr. Prigozhin, has welcomed the coup, saying it's a move against imperialism, neocolonialism, and offers his support to the putschists in Niamey.
ECOWAS, the West African regional group, has demanded the junta cede power before Sunday the 6th of August, or face extreme sanctions and possibly brute force. But analysts say the Russian threat is just one part of the puzzle. Islamic extremists, as seen in neighbouring countries, are a bigger threat.
What is at stake is regional. Any political destabilization would help jihadists, and Niger has a central spot for jihadism to use from either Mali or Burkina or even Libya.
Stability and peace under President Bazoum was seen as crucial for democracy to continue in the African region and for the world as a whole. Niamey has worked with Paris and other European capitals to confront radical Islam and counter illicit form of migration.
Niger is a key ally for the whole Europeans involved in Sahel. You have Germany present, Belgium, Italy, and what's interesting in Niger, it represents also what the European Union wants to do with the African on these challenges.
Italian Coast Guards have rescued 57 migrants from 2 boats that capsized overnight Saturday in rough seas south of a tiny Italian island. Officials say some 30 people are believed to be missing, and the body of a boy and a woman were recovered from one of the vessels. Meanwhile, 20 migrants were rescued by helicopter after they were found clinging desperately to jagged rocks off Lampedusa. Some 2,500 migrants are currently housed in a temporary residence on the island. Pope Francis celebrated Mass before an estimated 1.5 million pilgrims in Lisbon on Sunday, many of whom had camped out overnight ahead of the grand finale of the Catholic Youth Festival. Joining them were some 700 bishops and 10,000 priests. The pontiff told them it was good to want to change the world and work for justice and peace.
Siento un gran dolor por la querida Ucrania, que sigue sufriendo tanto. Amigos, permitan que también yo, ya viejo, comparta con ustedes, jóvenes, un sueño que llevo en el corazón, el sueño de la paz.
Pope Francis announced that the next World Youth Day will be held in South Korea in 2027, the first time in 3 decades it will take place in Asia, reflecting the continent's increasing importance to the Catholic Church.
In the face of a changing climate, the Thames Barrier has stood as a symbol of resilience, protecting London from storm surges. Installed in 1982, the engineers behind its construction could not then have anticipated the speed of climate change, and questions are now being asked about the barrier's long-term effectiveness.
A nasty storm in the North Sea could easily see us with very serious challenges.
Campaigner Steve Lawrence is an architect with an eye on the big picture. He's concerned that not enough action has been taken to alleviate the pressure on the barrier.
I think the government needs to get its eye on the ball here, because this is a really serious issue. It's our resource of last resort, and if there are problems of some kind, then the potential is for as much as 50 square miles of central London to be flooded.
The Thames Barrier was designed to withstand occasional closures during storm surges, but the frequency of the activation of the barrier has been rapidly increasing in recent years. It's prompted the UK government's Environment Agency to update a plan to address the need to raise tidal defence upstream of the barrier by 2050. 15 years earlier than expected. But some argue the fact that the barrier is closing more regularly could eventually pose a challenge to its maintenance and overall effectiveness.
Experts have already expressed concerns that the timescale for decision-making about the future of the Thames Barrier is too slow. The sea level, according to the evidence, is rising a lot faster than was originally anticipated when this barrier was first constructed, and the likelihood of extreme weather events has also gone up.
It closes much more frequently than previously anticipated. Climate change is on the extreme part of what scientists expected at the time the studies were done that fed into the Thames Barrier design. So that means that we need to shift a bit and take into account those more extreme scenarios.
The Environment Agency says its current plan is adaptive, taking into account a range of possible climate futures. A final decision will be taken by 2040 to ensure that an upgraded or new Thames Barrier can be built and operational in time for 2070. But some suggest, given the speed of climate change, action should be taken sooner to prevent the perfect storm from flooding London. Luke Hanrahan, Euronews, London.